Hello. Hello friends, welcome to our channel Wisdom ML. In this session, we will be discussing how to detect heart disease from different input features using machine learning. So let's start our today's session. First of all, we'll talk about what is the current scenario of heart disease worldwide. What is the current scenario of heart disease worldwide? So, as we can see, according to the statistics from WHO, it has been estimated that 24% of deaths due to non-communicable diseases in India are caused by heart disease, and one third of all global deaths are due to heart diseases. Half of the deaths in United States and in other developed countries are due to heart ailments. Around 17 million people die due to cardiovascular diseases every year worldwide, and the disease is highly prevalent in Asia part. So as you can see, heart disease is very critical worldwide and it is specifically prevalent in Asia. So in this session, we will try to build a machine learning model and will apply different machine learning models, compare their performance, and then suggest one machine learning model for this specific task. And we'll be doing lots of tasks in that: feature selection and model evaluation, and again we'll be building another next set of models based on selected features, and then we will decide which machine learning model is more generalized. So let's start with the data part. First of all, it is very important in any machine learning project how you have collected your data. And I have not used any pre-built data. I have used all the research data used in the past for heart disease prediction. And the one I've used is Cleveland dataset. It consists of US patients data. It has 303 records. The second data I've used is StatLog dataset. It is UK patients dataset and it has 270 records. And another one is Hungarian dataset. It consists of Hungarian, Switzerland, and Long Beach patients, and it consists of 617 records. So what I've done, these all the three data sets are very prevalent in many research studies and they are used in many research papers. So, but they are not available as a combined entity. So I have collected them from different sources, and there is one Nature paper. I've also referenced it in my description section, which has the database of all the heart disease related data sets available for research purpose. So I've collected these three data sets and combined them into by using their 11 common properties, 11 common features. And combined data set consists of total 1190 records, which has 11 common features of all these three data sets. So this is the most comprehensive data sets on for heart disease prediction. So next we'll be discussing what are those 11 features which will be which will be used our machine learning models for doing the prediction task. So next we'll see what are the data set and what are their features. So these are the total 11 input features, independent features, and one is our target variable, which is dependent variable. So as we can see, age is our feature, which is in years, and it is numeric. Sex is generally gender of patient, male for 1, female for 0, and it is nominal. And one thing I want to tell you that nominal is the categorical variable, which doesn't follow any particular ordering. But ordinal is the categorical variable which follows particular order. Okay. So for example, there are three categories A, B, C, and A has higher priority than B, B has higher priority than C, then it is known, then this type of categorization is known as ordinal variables or ordinal categories. So here sex is the nominal category. Next comes the chest pain type. This is basically what is the type of chest pain patient is experiencing, and it is categorized into basically four types of chest pains. One is typical angina, second one is atypical angina, third one is non-anginal pain, and fourth one is asymptomatic. So here I want to explain you something, because before deep diving into Jupyter Notebook and start exploring the data set, we should understand each and every feature very well. Because if we don't understand the features and their categories, we don't properly interpret the model, and uh, in the end we'll be building totally black box model. So that I really don't want. So that's why I'll be explaining each and every feature in this data set. So as you can see, typical angina. What is typical angina? Basically, angina is a type of chest pain. It is caused by reduced blood flow to the heart. This is known as anginal pain, and it is also known as typical anginal pain. And how you will observe that this is a typical anginal pain. So it feels like tightness or heaviness in the central chest part. This is the common symptom for typical anginal pain. And atypical anginal is specifically a pain, but it is not related with the heart. But it is caused by maybe some other causes like respiratory, musculoskeletal, or gastrointestinal, maybe the cause, or due to some heavy exercise. So these types of pains are atypical anginal pain. Next comes the non-anginal pain. These are totally irrelevant in terms of heart disease. Okay, non-anginal pains are generally, it resembles heart pain in patients who do not have heart disease. Okay, it generally occurs behind the breastbone and is described as the squeezing or pressure-like situation in our chest. Next comes the asymptomatic. Asymptomatic is the actually silent pain, and it is also known as silent killer, because most of the time some patient feels this type of pain, and this is basically asymptomatic pain. Generally, also results into heart attack. So such type of heart attacks are known as ischemia, and these are also known as silent killers because they will not give you any symptom, and while in you sleep you will get the heart attack. So like that. So these are the four types of heart attack, chest pain type. Next comes the blood pressure. Resting blood pressure means this blood pressure is measured when the patient was resting. Okay, and this is the measured in mm by hg. uh, mm by hg, the standard value for its measurement. It is a numerical feature. Next comes the cholesterol. It is serum cholesterol in mg by dl, and it is also numeric variable. Next comes the fasting blood sugar. It is a nominal variable. It should be means it should be numeric, but here what they have done, if you have a fasting blood sugar of more than 120, then they have assigned it as 1, as a danger. Or if it is lower than 120, then you are normal, so it is assigned as 0 value. So that's why it is a nominal. Next comes the resting ECG. This is the result of ECG while the patient is at rest, and it is represented in three distinct values: abnormality in STT wave, left ventricle hypertrophy, and 0 is the normal. Okay. Uh, this is basically, if you talk about abnormality in STT wave, so it is basically observed in heart patients, which are actual heart patients. Then there is one ST segment wave which is measured in ECG, and you will observe abnormality in such type of waves. So that's why this is very critical for deciding heart disease. Second one is left ventricle hypertrophy. This is basically quite interesting. It is basically term for heart's left pumping chamber that has thickened and may not be pumping efficiently, and it may also lead to heart attack. So next, it is a nominal categorical feature. Next comes the maximum heart rate. Maximum heart rate is basically whatever the heart rate we generally calculate. It is a numerical value, numerical feature. Next comes the exercise angina. Anginal pain after doing the exercise. If you observe, if you feel anginal pain after doing some heavy exercise, then you will assign value 1, and if you don't observe any such type of pain, then the patient has assigned value 0. So that's why it is a nominal variable. Next comes the old peak. It is exercise induced ST depression in comparison with state of rest. Okay, means whatever the ST segment value we have observed while resting, it is during exercise. Okay, what is the measurement of ST part in ECG? Next comes the ST slope. After doing the exercise, full on exercise, what is the slope of your ST segment in ECG? So let me show you what is upsloping, flat, and downsloping. That will be more intuitive to you. So it is the ST segment depression, and as you can see, this one is upsloping, this one is downsloping, and this is horizontal or flat. So what observed, and according to many researchers and physicians, cardiovascular experts, when you do lots of exercise, then what happens? Your if you are normal patient, then your blood pressure level will increase if you are normal. But if you are heart patient, then your blood pressure level will decrease. So if it is upsloping after doing heavy exercise, then it is normal. Means you are a normal patient. You are not heart patient. But it is if it is downsloping or horizontal, then it may then this is the observation that you are patient of heart disease, and there may be a chance that you will develop heart disease in future also. So this is the basic idea of what is ST slope. And the last is our target variable, which has value of 1 if you have heart disease, if you are suffering from heart risk, and 0 if the patient is normal. So this is the total description of our features of the dataset notebook, and we'll see how we will do the coding part. So as you can see, this notebook is divided into three major steps. First one is the data description. We have already seen the data description. Next, importing libraries, setting up environment, loading the data set, data cleaning, exploratory data analysis, outlier detection and removal, training and test, set, split, cross validation, model building, model evaluation and comparison, feature selection, and again model evaluation and comparison after feature selection. And then last one is our conclusion part. So let's start uh, and see. So this is the data description. Already I have told you. Next, we'll move towards importing libraries. So this whole notebook is available in my Git repo, and the link for that is already shared in the video description. So no worries for the code. I'll explain everything line by line, cell by cell. Okay. And in the importing part, I have also commented which library is used for which purpose. For example, pandas and numpy is generally used for data wrangling and pre-processing part. Visualization, I have used two libraries, matplotlib and seaborn. For validation part, I have used different types of evaluation metrics, because in healthcare, specifically healthcare projects, it is very important how you are evaluating your model, because sometimes normal precision, recall, accuracy will not serve the purpose, because it depends which type of project you are dealing with. So for this project, I have used two other metrics apart from ROC and precision, F1 recall, and sensitivity, specificity. I have also used log loss and Matthew correlation coefficient. I will explain it when we just evaluate our model. We'll explain everything. Next, for cross validation, I've used stratified K-fold, and these are all machine learning algorithms I have used in this. So next, so just run this. Okay. So we just load our data set, read our data set, and see some of the sample entries in it. So as we can see, some of the numerical entries are age, resting BP, cholesterol, and max heart rate, old peak. These are some continuous variables. And apart from that, all are nominal variables or categorical variables. Next, as we can see, some of the columns are very out of order, and we cannot means convey about the meaning of these features. Okay, so what I have done, I have renamed those columns with the proper name. Okay, chest pain type, resting blood pressure, cholesterol, fasting blood sugar, like that. And for that, I have just used dt dot columns and passed the list, and you have to pass all the column names in that order as it is already in the old current data set. So just rename it. Now what we are doing is we are converting our categorical features into proper categorical names. Okay, so that we can infer more. Okay, and we get the good intuition because simply uh, seeing the distribution of these 1 2 3 4 in categorical variables will not serve our purpose and will not also get some good intuition. So for that I am converting it into proper categories, and later on we'll be convert into their numerical encoding format and using pd.getDummies. Okay, so as you can see, one is typical angina, two is atypical angina, three is non-angina, and four is asymptomatic. So like that, I have converted all the categorical variables. So just run it. And guys, if you are doing this task, converting categorical variables to their names, then it is very important to check those categorical values, categorical variable distribution. Because sometimes what happen that in data set uh, description, in dataset description, uh, whatever we get, for example, we have given the description of four categorical values, but in actual data set we have one more category named 5. Okay, but we don't know the actual description for that. So it depends what is the distribution, what is the count, how many number of records are there for such type of categories. If they are more, then we should keep them as a separate category. Okay, like others, or like 5 will treat it as separately. But if they are very less, then we should ignore those rows which have such type of values. Okay, because if you don't know the description of that, so you can't do, you means you cannot do anything. Okay, you will not interpret the meaning. So what I'm doing is I'm counting the variables. So as you can see, yes, all the variables values are converted. Yes, rest ecg. Now st slope, that's what I'm saying. So we have only 1 2 and 3 which is flat upsloping downsloping, but we have also one record of 0. So what we will do, we should remove such type of rows. So I have simply removing this row which has slope 0. Okay, I have retrieving that index and dropping that by passing it into dt.drop. Okay, now we will just count. So now find flat upsloping downsloping. Now check the data. So yes, we have successfully converted all the categorical feature into their actual categories. So let's move towards missing values, checking missing values. So for checking any missing value in your data set column wise, you have to pass dt.isna.sum, and luckily we don't have any missing values. Okay, so now we will move towards EDA part, and here we'll see what is the shape of our data. So it is 1189. Previously it was 1190. We have dropped one row. Okay, so we have now 1189. Let's see the statistical measure of our all the numerical variables. Okay, so these are our numerical variables. As we can see, age is around 53, the average age. Okay, max is 77. Resting BP is around 132. So it is uh, okay. Resting BP is 132. Cholesterol is 210. It is towards higher side. The normal range is below 200. Fasting BP is 0.21 because its value ranges between 0 and 1. I've already told you. Okay, 0 if you don't have fasting blood pressure, fasting blood sugar. If you have fasting blood sugar below 120, then you have value 0, and if it is more than 120, then it has value 1. So most of the values, as you can see, average of the values are near 0. So most of the patients have no fasting blood sugar. So max heart rate is around 139. Okay, this is quite high. Next, exercise induced angina. Its value is also ranges between 0 to 1, and it is also less than 0.5, means most of the patients have not exercise induced angina. They are not observed. Okay. Now ST depression as values, it is a continuous variable, and its value ranges between minimum is minus 2.6 and maximum 6.2, and the average is around 0.92. So it is a lower side. Okay. And next, as you can see here, we also get the distribution of a target. As we can see, 0.52. So more than 50% of the patients have heart disease. Okay. So next, we'll be seeing our categorical variables. Okay, so sex has two unique variables: chest pain F4, rest ECG 3, ST slope 3. Okay, these are the top and these are the most frequent. Next, next, what we will do, we will see the target variable whether it is balanced dataset or not. In my previous lecture, I have also told you, if your dataset is not balanced, then the approach will be different. You have to apply upsampling, downsampling techniques. But if you have balanced dataset, then the things quite little bit easier for you. So let's see whether the data is balanced or not. So yeah, the data is balanced, as we can see. So as we can see, 53% has heart disease and 47% are normal patients. And in numerical terms, normal patients are 561 and 1 are 628. Okay, so the data set is fully balanced, no issues. Next, we'll be checking the demographic part of the patients. What is the gender distribution, age-wise distribution? So first of all, we'll check the overall distribution of age and gender. So as you can see, the gender is distributed into 76% are male and 24% are females. And if we see the age-wise distribution, so as as we have already seen, the mean age is around 53. Yeah, it is around 53 or 54. That's truly visible here. So next, now what we will do in EDA part, we have filtered two data sets based on the target variable. Means the patient which have heart disease, which has target variable 1, will store it in ATR underscore 1 data frame, and another data frame is ATR 0, which are normal patients. Okay, and we will be plotting parallelly different features and compare what is the difference between normal patients and heart disease patients. So first we'll be plotting age wise distribution and gender wise. So yes, so as we can see, normal patients have age distribution around 53. Okay, and most of the normal patients are male. Females are quite less in comparison to male. And in here, the age-wise distribution for heart disease patients is around 50 to 60 years. So it's quite higher side in comparison to normal patients. And when we compare uh, gender distribution of heart disease patients, so male observe most of the heart disease patient in comparison to female. So this is the basic difference, and we get some intuition about age and gender. Next, we'll be seeing chest pain type, and that too in terms of comparison, normal and heart patients. So as we can see, I've already told you that atypical angina and non-anginal pains are generally not riskier, and they are not prone to heart attacks, heart disease. So that's why normal patients have mostly non-anginal pain and atypical pain, or some of them have also good number asymptomatic. But here you see asymptomatic pain is higher in case of heart patients, and I have already told you that asymptomatic pain is very dangerous, and it is mostly, as you can see, silent killer. Okay, so this is very dangerous, and in this data set, most of the heart patients are suffering from asymptomatic angina pain, and in comparison to atypical and typical angina are very less. So this is the distribution. Next, we will see in terms of percentage using PD cross tab what is the distribution. So yeah, asymptomatic patients have 76.91% heart patients. Okay, and if we talk about normal patients, so normal patients have higher non-anginal pain, 34.4. Okay, so asymptomatic heart attacks are basically medically known as silent myocardial infarction (SMI), and it annually accounts for around 45 to 50% of morbidities due to cardiac ailments and even premature deaths in India. Okay, so these are very riskier. Next comes the ECG part. We'll see what is the distribution of ECG. Okay. So as we can see, one thing is common in both normal and heart patients, that both have normal. Okay. And the thing which is higher in heart patient is ventricle hypertrophy. It is higher in heart patients. It is also high in normal, but it is much higher in comparison to normal in case of heart patients. Whereas ST wave abnormality in West ECG is also higher in comparison to normal patients. So these are the two things which is important for identifying heart disease. Next, we'll be again seeing what is the distribution in terms of percentage. So as we can see, normal is the majority in both the cases, whereas left ventricle hypertrophy is higher in case of, it is not much higher, it is slightly higher in case of heart patient, and ST wave abnormalities, the difference is around 8% or 7%. Next, we'll be seeing ST slope of normal and heart patients. So the thing is that, yeah, this is the basic difference which I have shown you in a figure, that if you are a normal patient and if you are not experiencing any heart ailment, then your exercise induces, means when we measure your ST slope after exercise, then your ST slope should be up slope. Okay, it should not be flat or down sloping. Okay, whereas in case of heart patient, as you can see, flat is much higher, much higher. Okay, and up sloping and down sloping is very low. So this is the critical indicator of your heart disease. Okay, this is a very good test for identifying heart disease. Next, yeah, so in terms of percentage, as you can see, up sloping as higher percentage, flat. Okay, flat as higher percentage when you are suffering from heart disease, whereas in case of normal patient you should have upsloping, means when you are doing exercise your blood pressure will increase and your ST slope should be upsloping. Okay, so next we'll be seeing the distribution of our numerical features, all the numerical features in terms of pair plot. So as we can see, these are the pair plot in which we will plot based on the different pairs. For example, cholesterol age, this is the scatter plot, resting blood pressure and age, like that. We used to plot like that. And what are the things we have observed is that as the age increases, okay, as the age increases, your chances of heart risk increases as per this data set. Okay, as per this data set, if your age is higher, as you can see, one is this color, so it is higher in terms of peak when you have age more than 70 or 77. As you can see, this is the cutoff point, and these are the persons who are not overlapping effect. So more than 67 or 65, the chances for heart risk are more according to this data set. So like that. And next we'll be seeing our other variables, which are resting blood pressures and yeah. And now we'll be seeing in terms of pair. So this is the resting blood pressure and this is the cholesterol. Okay. So as we can observe uh, in the later part, we have some outliers. Okay. We can see clearly that outliers for some of the patient, and for this particular patient the cholesterol is zero and even resting blood pressure is also zero. So scatter plot is also one of the way to observe the outliers, and which is truly observed here and here. Okay, these are the instances. So that's why it is always better to plot using scatter plot or box plot to look for outliers. Next, we will be seeing another player which is resting BP and age. And if you observe that this is the patch where only heart patients are there, and this is more than 50 and resting BP more than 175 range. Okay, if you are more than 50 years of age and uh, resting BP more than 175, then you are most likely to be heart attack. Apart from that, all are interlinked and intermingled and overlapped. You cannot clearly identify which one has heart attack or which one has not. So, but apart from that, this is the patch which you can observe. So, as we have seen, some of the outliers are there. So, we will be using a Z score for detecting and removing the outliers. And what are the outliers? Basically, we know that in a normal Gaussian distribution, uh, up to one standard deviation, there is around 68% of that. And up to two standard deviation from mean, we have 95% of the data, and up to three standard deviation, we have 98% of. And it is as per the standard when you have some of the points which are above or which are just outside of this uh, means mean it is which is outside from this point. This is the threshold 3, means 3 standard deviation from the mean, then it is an outlier. The point which lie outside this threshold is generally treated as outliers. So we will see how many outliers we have. So for calculating the Z score, what we do, we use the value and make a difference with the mean and divide it with the standard deviation. So we'll get the Z score. Based on that, we have to filter our data by threshing the by fixing the threshold to 3. Okay. So, and as we have observed, we have outliers in all the numerical variables, continuous variables. So we have just uh, making a subset of that using DT numeric, and see these are the numeric variables, and they are in these numerical variables we have some outliers. So what we'll see, we will calculate the Z score, and this is the method. You have to use numpy dot apps, and below that, in the parameter, you have to pass stats.z_score and full data frame. So it will print the Z of all the values in terms of array. Okay. Now we have to define a threshold and filter based on that wherever the Z value is greater than 3. So these are the points. So don't be confused with this result, because the first array is the row number or actual means indexes, and these are the column numbers. Okay, so for example, your first outliers lie like this: Z32 means in this array you can identify like that, row number and then column. Okay, so we have total 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 instances which are outliers. So what we will do, we will simply remove that. Okay, because it will later affect our model. So we have completely removed our outliers. Now we have only 1172 records, Earlier we have 11, 18, 9 records. So total 17 outliers are removed now. So next what we'll be doing, next we will encoding our variables, categorical variables, and all the categorical variables are generally more than two categories. So we will not use label encoding. We will use one hot encoding. And for doing one hot encoding for more than two variables, and that too with more than two categories, we have to use pandas function get dummies. And here we have used drop first is equal to true. The reason is that if you do not use drop first true, then the then it will keep on generating all the variables, and you will not get actual um distinction. Because if you, for example, you have three variables, three categories. Okay, for example, there is chess paint type. Okay, we have three categories in chess paint type. So what it will do, it will generate three columns, and if you have a value in the third column, then it will give the value like 0, 0, 1. Okay, so if you drop one variable, the first variable, so it means that if both the variables have value 0, then it is the another variable. So like that we can reduce our number of features after generating encoding variables. So like that we have used our pd.get dummies, and now we have some more number of columns. Okay, so let's check the shape. So we have now 16 columns, 16 features. So next what we will do, we will segregate features and target variable. So x is our feature in which we have dropped the target variable. Apart from target variable, all other things are the features, and in y we are keeping only target variable. Now the most important part, we have to see visually what is the correlation with the target variable. Okay, what is the correlation of all the features with our target variable. So as we can see, we have some of the things are positively correlated. How it is, as we have already told you, if you have st slope flat, then you are most prone to heart attack, and its value is closer to 1. So that's why it is positively correlated. And st slope upsloping is for normal patients which have value 0. So that's why it is negatively correlated. Okay, so some of the positive correlated variables are age, resting bp, fasting blood sugar, exercise induced angina, st depression, sex male, and st slope flat. And the most negatively correlated variable is st slope upsloping. Okay, so we get the idea how these are correlated. Now we will do train test split with stratified sampling. Okay, so we are using 80-20 ratio, 80% for training the data and 20% for testing the data. So let's see the distribution of our target variable in train and test set. So for 491 is the heart patient and 446 are normal patient in training set, and in testing set we have 123 heart patient and 112 normal patients. That's quite similar. So good. And if you check the shapes, so we have trained on 937 records, 15 features, and testing on 235 records. So now comes the range feature scaling part, feature normalization. So as we know, some of our variables are in the range of 0 to 1. So that's why we are using min max scaler. If that was not the case, uh, then we will definitely use other feature scaling technique like standard scaler or robust scaler. So here, as you can see, we are using only those features which are continuous. Okay, age, resting pp, cholesterol, max heart rate, and st depression. So let's see after scaling how it is showing. Yeah, so all apart from these 0, 1, all are scaled in the range of 0, 1. All other features which we have selected here. Okay, same is the case with testing set. Okay, and one important point, friends. Generally what we do when we scale our variables, uh, don't do scaling before train test split because it will create data leakage. Okay, always try to scale your features after doing train test split. The reason is that what it will do, we do fit and transform on train test, and on test set what we do, we simply transform. Why not fit? Because it learns the pattern from the previous training set and do the transform accordingly on test sets. This is the standard way of doing feature scaling, and it is always better to do feature scaling after train test split. Okay. So now what we are doing cross validation, and for cross validation, we are using all our key machine learning algorithms. And what we have done is that, for example, in KNN, we are using 7, 5, 9, 11 ends neighbors. Okay, and for random forest and extra tree classifier and XGBoost and like that, all the tree based classifiers, we are using different combination of trees. For example, in RF we are using entropy and Gini, two separate, and in extra tree classifier using 100, 500 and 1000 trees. For XGB we are using 500, 100, 1000, 2000. Okay, so just comparing how it will behave in cross validation, and whichever combination performs well, we'll select those combination uh, with the machine learning algorithm. So let's start and see which algorithm performs well in case of cross validation. So as we can see, KNN 9 is good. CART is also performed well. Okay, 0.86. SVM linear RBF is also good. Great. AB is also more than 85. GBM 89. Great. RF is somewhat exceptional. Okay, 93.49. RF Gini 92.96. Cool. Now, if we talk about extra T, so extra tree classifier is still lower than random forest Gini criteria. Okay, so it is taking time. MLP pretty good, 86. SGD is quite low, 82.5. And as we can see, our baseline model, logistic regression with L2 penalty also performed well, more than 85%. Linear discriminant analysis also done well, 85%. Okay, and XGBoost, yes, this is my favorite algorithm. XGBoost with 2000 trees done a good job, 92%. 500, 92.6, and XGB 100, 89.9. So one more is remaining, SGB 1000. Let's see how it will perform. Okay, 92.53. So 92.63 is the best combination for XGBoost, and for XRT classifier it is 92.53. RF Gini is the best. Sorry, RF entropy is the best, 93.4. Okay, and one more remaining, which is XRT 1000 trees. So it is 92.4. So clear, in case of cross validation, the winner algorithm is random forest entropy 93.49. Okay. So let's see the code. Basically, what we have done, we have declared one base model list and appending all the baseline machine learning algorithms in that. And later on, we are running one loop in this method, and one by one we are calling the models and evaluating it based on cross validation score and appending their results. Okay, and printing the result. That's it. So next comes the model building part. So what we have done, which algorithms perform well, it is entropy. Okay, so here we will be using entropy. So Yeah, we will be using copy. Okay. So let's see. Uh, so we will select our best model. So what we are doing, we are building all these models which we have used for XGB. Which one is higher? First of all, we have to see. XGB is yeah, 500 trees. 500 trees is the best one with XGB. But in case of extra tree is better in case of 92.5 100 trees. Okay, so it will be 100. It will be 100. Okay. Now comes the XGB. XGB perform well with 500. Okay. This is the problem with XGB. Actually, for XGB, what you have to do, we have to define XGB whenever you are using it. This is the problem. So we'll define here. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. SVC. Now we're using SGT. Now we're doing ADA boost. This is entry gradient boosting. So now comes the most important part, evaluation part. So here we are using some of the other techniques, which is Matthew correlation coefficient. The basic difference is that in Matthew correlation coefficient, it gives more reliable statistical estimate because it considers all the elements: true positive, true negative, false positive, false negative. Okay, so that's why Matthew correlation coefficient is very good evaluation performance measure. Next one is the log loss. Log loss is basically measures the performance of classification model where the prediction input is probability value between 0 and 1. And the goal of our machine learning model is to minimize this value. Means if you have perfect model, it should have log loss of 0. And log loss increases as the predicted probability diverges from the actual level. For example, if you have predicted probability of 0.12, whereas the actual observation is label 1, then it would be bad and it results in high log loss. So if you can say that log loss measures the confidence of your model, how confident the model is. For example, if the actual level is 0, okay, actual level is 0, but you have predicted, your model has predicted 0.9 something probability, so it means your model is doing really bad with confidence. Okay, so this is very important. And whenever for example you have a label 0 and your model is predicting giving probability of 0.5 or something like that, then also your log loss will be increased. Your log loss will be very less when your actual level is 0 and your probability is also around 0.12, 0.2, like that. Then your log loss will be less. So that's why it is a very good estimate, good performance measure for evaluating your machine learning model. And F1 score, we all already know that it is the harmonic mean of recall and precision. So first of all, what I'm doing, first of all, I'm using random forest as our base model. And we can see here we have achieved 90.63 accuracy with random forest entropy criteria. 0.87 precision, sensitivity is also quite high, 0.95. Specificity is also good. F1 score is quite good, 91. ROC is 90, and log loss is 3.2, which is quite high. And Matthew correlation value ranges between -1 to 1. So if your value is more toward positive one, then it is good model. So it has done a pretty good job. Next, we'll be comparing with our other. This is, I think, 100 or 1000. 100, right? So it is 100. So what we are doing, we have created one dictionary, okay, and in this dictionary we have created one data frame, okay, and just what we are doing, we are using for loop and iterating column wise and taking this is actually the prediction part of particular algorithm, okay. We have already fitted our machine learning algorithm and here is the predictions of the model, prediction of the model saved in this variable. So we are just using a for loop and calling that calling that predictions one by one based on the machine learning algorithm, and we'll calculate all these things and appending the result with the with our base model results data frame. So let's see. Yes. So which one is the clear winner? So clear winner is nothing else but XGP. Accuracy 91%, precision 90, sensitivity is quite low, specificity is quite high, F1 score is too good. Okay. And ROC is also high, 91.91, and log loss, you just compare this log loss with this log loss, okay, it is 2.79 and it is 3.23. So obviously this is the better and more generalized model, and also if you compare the Matthew correlation, it has higher 0.83, it is 0.81, so it is quite better. XGP is very good in comparison with random forest, okay. So let's plot now our ROC curve, which is also very important to see to evaluate our model. Which uh, by plotting ROC, we will observe that which machine learning algorithms have highest area under ROC curve, and whichever algorithms have highest ROC area under ROC are more generalized. So this is also a very good estimate for evaluating any machine learning model. So as we can see, our extra tree classifier is more perform really well, 0.95 in comparison to random forest and XGBoost. Both have 0.947, but extra tree has done a pretty well job. Okay, so it is more generalized in comparison to both these two algorithms. Now let's plot next precision recall curve. So in precision recall curve, what is the average value which has highest? So this is just a opposite of ROC. As you can see in ROC, we have here is our actual ideal curve, this one. But in precision, this is the just the mirror image. Okay, this is the ideal. If any model has this shape, just means towards the top right corner, then it is the best model. And which is the best model? Again here extra T classifier is highest average of precision recall, which is 0.957. So extra T classifier has done a good job in terms of A under ROC and precision recall average, whereas XGB is done a pretty well job in all other parameters. Okay, now, as we know, we have 11 features, but as I told you, all features are not good. So we have to filter some of the features. So what we are doing is we are selecting some of the features. Okay. Okay. By using simple correlation coefficient. Next, what we are doing, we are using chai selector. Okay. Next, we are using RFE for selecting the features, because later on what I am doing is I'm using different feature selection algorithms, and based on that we'll compare uh, which features have majority number of support in terms of feature selection algorithms. Okay, so this is the embedded LR selector, which is the embedded algorithm for selecting the feature. Okay, because we know that L2 is used for a penalty L2, which is reach is used for feature selection. So that's why we have used logistic regression penalty L2 for that. This is embedded RF. Next, we have also used light GBM for selecting the features. It has selected 7 important features. Now we have used all the data, all the feature selection algorithm. Now what I'm doing is creating one data frame, and uh, by and all the columns are the feature selection algorithms. Okay, and later on we will compare which one has more number of support. So as you can see, ST slope flat has all the we have used total 6 feature selection algorithms. Okay, and ST slope flat has 6, all the 6 support. All the 6 algorithms have voted for ST slope flat. ST depression same. Two features are very important, and these are selected by all the algorithms. Next, max heart rate is voted by 5. Only one is diverges from this. Exercise induced angina also is also opposite result by logistic embedded logistic algorithm. So what I am doing is I am selecting only those features which have minimum of 5 algorithm supports. Okay, majority voting of 5, not below that. Okay, but the thing is that as we are using only 5 features, but we cannot exclude linked features like ST slope flat, ST depression. So we cannot bypass ST slope upsloping. Okay, we can definitely pass sex mill because it is an individual feature, but we cannot filter this because it is linked with these features. Okay, so that's why what we are filtering is basically up to this we are selecting all the features, and uh, this one also I am selecting. Okay, and apart from that I am excluding these features. So what are the features we are dropping? Target variable from X, testing blood pressure, sex male, chest pain type, atypical angina. Okay, apart from that everything will be there in the X unknown feature. Next, again we are train test splitting, scaling. Okay, and now again we are fitting. Okay, we have just called that feature, call that function get base model. Let's see which algorithm now will perform better. So as we can see, cart has done a pretty well job in comparison to other. SVM done a very bad job. GBM done a good job, 86%. Yeah, RF entropy done again. Okay, 92%. Uh, this time ET100 also done good, 91.9, better than 500. Let's see what other algorithms will do. So multi-layer perceptron 84, not quite good. SGD is also perform badly. Uh, XGB 2000 more than 90%. That's good. 588.7, 185. Let's see what about 1000. 90.6. Okay. So XGB with 1000 90.6 and is highest for XGB. And apart from that, RF entropy, random forest entropy is the highest till now. So ET 1000 is remaining. Let's see. Okay, so 91.8. So 889. Okay, so ET 500 is better. So as we can see, we will select top five algorithms from here based on cross-validation performance, and we'll create one soft voting model. Okay, which is an ensemble of these models, and we will assign weightage based on their performance. Okay, and let's see how this soft voting model will perform. So as we can see, we have used random forest with entropy, decision tree, XGB with 1000. Okay, extra tree with 1000. Okay, extra tree with, sorry, extra tree we have to use with 500 because it performs well. Gradient boosting because it performs well. Okay, and we have assigned weightage based on their performance. So in our case, RFE, random forest entropy, has done a good job. Okay, yeah. So we'll be giving four weightage to this. Okay, one to decision tree, two to XGB, three to extra T because it is 91.8, quite near to random forest. And for gradient boost, we are giving only one. Okay. Oh, what is the 86? Yeah, one is good. So now we will just fit the model and see. So let's evaluate this model and see how it performs. Great. So it has 89.7 accuracy with only six features, guys. We have only six features. Okay, and this model has given 89.7% accuracy. Precision is also good. Sensitivity is 94%. Okay, specificity is 84.8. F1 score is 90.6, and ROC is also good. Log loss is quite higher side, and Matthew correlation coefficient is also 0.79, quite good with such a less number of features. So right now what we are doing, we are using all our algorithms, and later on we'll compare with this soft voting algorithm. So what we have done, we have used all the uh, predictions value, and based on that we have created one data dictionary like we have done before, and created one data frame, and again we are iterating in the data frame and evaluating based on their prediction values. So let's see what is the result. So that's great. Whoa. So the thing is that random forest entropy has done a good job in terms of accuracy. Precision 87.3, sensitivity is high, specificity is quite near to soft voting. 91.05 is F1 score. 89.9 is ROC, which is also high, and all in all, log loss is also less, 3.38. And Matthew correlation coefficient is also high, 0.80, with less number of users. So let's now plot ROC and see which one performs well. So here, as we can see, we have a higher extractive classifier area under ROC like before, and second one is soft voting. And if we can see precision recall, so precision recall is highest in terms of extra tree again, 95.5, and the second one is the soft voting. Sorry, it is written as stacking, but it is soft voting. Okay, so let's now quickly see, as random forest entropies are best model. So let's see which features are important within those features. So as we have seen, we have only six features, but these features have some categories which are also in terms of other features. So that's why it is more than six. And here, as we can see, max heart rate achieved is higher. highest contribution, cholesterol second highest, ST depression third, age is fourth, and exercise induced angina is the fifth. So these are the top five features which contribute uh, very much in the prediction process. Okay, so this is the session as we have seen in symbol approach also using soft voting, and we have compared the performances of all the machine learning algorithms. We have seen that data description part, understand all the features, and then we have pre-processed our data, remove the outliers, and later on we have built our model, cross-validate them. Again, we have built them. Again, we have evaluated them. Then we have used feature selection process, and we have used majority voting feature selection. This technique is known as majority voting feature selection, because in such scenario what we do, we apply different types of feature selection, and here you can also use other feature selection algorithms also and see how many features are performing well in terms of majority number of votings. Okay, so based on that we'll select those features, and later on again we built that model and found that random forest entropy is the best for this data set with the performance evaluation metrics. So I hope guys you like our session, and keep watching our channel. I'll be adding more videos, project-based videos, real-time case studies, and with some more advanced concept like stacked ensemble approach, blending, how you can combine different machine learning algorithms with different techniques using stacking or blending or soft voting, hard voting. Apart from that, in one of my next project, I'll be sharing machine learning interpretability part, where I'll be exploring some of the very good libraries to interpret machine learning models. So I hope guys you like our lecture, and thanks for watching our session.